Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I really want to start by saying thank you to Kieran and everyone who put this in the service together, because standing here for me is quite a serious thing, to share God's message. I don't do that very often. Maybe I did more in the past after coming back from the seminary, but for me it's an honor and also a scary thing, a little bit, to share in front of you. But also I know this is streamed, so lots of people will hear it at some point. But I want to say thank you, because the purpose of the Sunday service, in my opinion, is to really start the week in a good way, in a spiritual way, and in a wonderful, deep way. So the music and the songs and the sermon should play a role in helping us really have a good kickoff to the start of this week. So I thank you for all that, for all the preparation. Why am I standing here? Is because last Sunday, as you know, for those who are here, A.J. Rai gave a very inspiring sermon. It was called My Eternal Brother, about Hyojinim, the son of the late Reverend Sang Myung Moon, our founder. And what I got from that sermon, I have to say, is I really felt the passion that I'm not just from AJ's talk, but actually I've actually heard Hyojinim myself when I was in America. I've heard his talks, and I even went to one concert at the Manhattan Center. So I have heard him firsthand a few times. And what comes through is that passion he has for music, his singing and his guitar playing, very, very passionate, and also his love for his parents, which is often the message of the songs. He talks about his love and filial piety for his parents. And I met with AJ and Mitty after the service last Sunday, and I just gave a little feedback. I shared a little bit with AJ, and he said, "Look, could you give the sermon this Sunday?" So I couldn't say no. So that's why I'm standing up here this morning. So my title is Finding One's Passion. The key, in all my notes, I highlighted the word passion in red. Just to remind me, I've got it about 15 times on this page. Yeah. So the key is passion. And I want to start by looking at the first quote. This is the definition of passion. Okay, from Google. If you type dictionary, it says passion is a feeling of intense enthusiasm towards or compelling desire for someone or something. Passion can range from eager interest in or admiration for an idea, proposal, or cause, to enthusiastic enjoyment of an interest or activity. So a passion is, to me, it's something I think we need in this world, and I'm very grateful to say that I've been able to develop passion for a number of things. But another definition is the second quote. When you type passion in Google, it comes up about the passion of Christ. It's this one, the passion of Jesus. And it says, in Christianity, the passion is the short final period in the life of Jesus, beginning with his triumphal entry into Jerusalem and ending with his crucifixion and death on Good Friday. So in the Latin, my understanding in the Latin, the word passion actually means suffering or enduring. But we commonly, if you saw the first definition, we look at passion as being emotion, interest, eagerness, and these kind of things. And I want to share a little bit about my life, and then talk a little bit of how hopefully we can inspire some of the young people, particularly. I want to address this also to young people today, that they can develop a passion for something. So I'll come to that in a minute. So just for those who don't know me so much about my life, I was born a long time ago in Kenya. I'm the fourth child, the middle child of 7. Okay, and there's something different about me than my previous 3 siblings. They were often in boarding school. My 2 sisters and brother. They were often not with me. For some reason, they were older, and the way my father's job was, he was a representative for an oil company. So I was always traveling with my dad and mom. And then later, my other siblings, 3 other siblings came along. But whereas my first 3 were always in Nairobi, in the capital city, or in boarding schools. So I didn't see so much of them in my youth until later on. And during this time, actually, I got very close to my mother. And often I remember her, taking me to ladies' meetings. She was with other friends. And I was sometimes the only child there. All the other ladies didn't have children, maybe my age or whatever. And then I was left alone. And it was during this time I developed a passion for two things. One is, I think I became creative and very imaginative. I started thinking about storytelling and imagining things. I used to even, draw in the sky. And actually, that led me to actually become a sketcher. I started sketching. And even when I shouldn't have done, even at school, instead of listening to lectures and things, I would sketch. And so I had my pencil and my sketch pad, and I just loved sketching when I was young. I don't do so much of that these days, but I was really into that. Many years later, when I was attending a Divine Principle workshop in Chislehurst, I was looking out of the window and listening, and I saw these sunflowers. There were 7 sunflowers outside the window there. And I got a piece of paper and I sketched them. I sketched the 7 sunflowers. And the reason I'm telling you this is actually I made a historical record that day because that evening there was a storm. And would you believe the sunflowers and many other plants got destroyed? But I could show everybody the sunflowers as I saw them the day before. And I called them the sunflowers of God. And I have that sketch somewhere. I know I've kept it. So, so sketching has this purpose maybe in some way. Also, you could say I developed a passion for cars and aeroplanes. Who's interested in cars? Yeah, Kieran? I had a real passion in my youth for cars and aeroplanes. I could tell you a model, make and model of any car on the road and any plane in the sky that I could see. I could tell you whether it was a Boeing 707B or 720, whatever it is. I could tell you just by looking at the shape, the engine, the tail. I could tell you exactly. I can't do that anymore. But this was a passion I had. And also later, for what it's worth, I used to read number plates. I still do to some extent, even today. I can read a license plate of a car and tell you where it was registered and when it was registered. So, for what useless information, but it's just a hobby of mine. Okay, but now, around the age of 11, I believe I could drive a car. Okay, I used to watch my dad teach my older sister Joyce how to drive. I sit in the back seat, and I used to really pick up everything he did. I had a passion for driving. I didn't want to wait till I was 18. In Kenya, you had to be at least 18 to drive. I knew I could do it earlier. So I actually convinced myself, because of my passion, I could drive at the age of 11. And I did. And this is what happened. One day, I put this to the test. In Kenya, my dad was an accountant for a tea company. And when we were at home, the holidays, of course, we're at home. My dad used to bring a VW Beetle. That was a company car. He used to bring it from the office for lunchtime, and park it outside the house. And what I did one day, I got the keys. I went in the car, started the car, put it in the first gear, and I drove around the house. I didn't realize I wasn't very good at changing gear. I was quite small as well. Anyway, I got in first gear, and I drove around the house. A few minutes later, my siblings, they came out and told me to stop. And I don't know what happened. Anyway, I did stop the car, but it ended up in a rose bush in the garden. And guess what? I was banned forever from driving that car again. But I knew I could drive, and I did. I drove around the house. So at least I did that. Over the years, actually, when I think about that, I think I've been asked often to be a driver in our movement, in our church. One of my very first missions in South London, when I joined the church in '79, was to drive a minibus and bring home members to Lancaster Gate for Sunday service in the afternoon. We had a 6 o'clock service here when I first joined the church. And my job was to go and pick up all these home members and bring them here and take them back. That was one of my very first missions. So my passion for driving was put to some use. And also at the seminary, people knew I could drive, and I was a good driver. So I was actually one of the allocated drivers for the seminary vehicles. There was 4 or 5 vehicles, and I was appointed as one person who's responsible for the vehicles. So I could drive members to meetings and services in New York City, do church visitation, and even go fundraising. I just remembered, sorry, I forgot to mention one thing about Passion of Jesus before I leave that slide. You know, Jesus Jesus and his heavenly Father had a great love for humankind, and Jesus went to the cross he went to the cross for our sins. He died for us. So you could say, and absolutely you could say Jesus had great love and passion, as so did our heavenly Father for humankind. So I just want to mention that we can't forget the love that Jesus had for us. He still has for us. I still do driving. Just to finish this talk about driving, I still love driving, but I don't know about you, but I've lost my passion a bit for driving in London. Yeah? That's one thing I have lost a little bit. Yes, because you get parking. There's parking restrictions. Yes, Joanna, and there's also a lot of traffic. There's many more cars on the road now. It's not like before. And also there's these cameras. These cameras, speed cameras, and so on. So you've got to be careful these days. There's not so much fun and joy in driving anymore. So I still do a little bit of it. Anyway, I want to share with you now another passion I have. You may think this is funny or silly, I don't know. In my last year of primary school, back in Kenya again, I developed a passion for fish and fish ponds. And I'm telling there's a reason why I'm telling all these things, and as I conclude later, you'll see why. My family actually had built a fish pond in our home. We had a beautiful country home 7 miles from town on the tea estate, where my dad was accountant, as I said. We had this lovely fish pond with a lot of goldfish and a really nice, lovely pond. We took a lot of pride. Every time visitors came, the first thing they did was to go and see the fish pond. It was beautifully done and everything. But before leaving school, I felt I can't leave the school without a fish pond. Now, talk about a big ask. I went to the headmaster, and I also managed to convince my science teacher that we should have a fish pond in the school. And they agreed with me. So they got the funds and so on. And actually, we built, the year before I left the school, we actually built a fish pond in the school, in the garden there. And my family actually managed to donate some of the fish. We had a lot of fish in our home, so we donated some of the goldfish. And my passion for fish hasn't died. As some of you may know, come to my home, we've got an aquarium, tropical fish. And just yesterday, so this is very relevant, I cleaned the tank. After I spent time preparing the sermon, I cleaned the tank. It's very nice and clean, and the fish are very happy, all of them. So, I have this passion. Okay, so, and actually I've been looking after this fish for over 10 years, and they're still doing okay. Right. Who is into football? I can't not talk about football just for a few minutes. Okay, here's another story, a youthful story of mine. Before leaving Kenya, I had the opportunity with my uncle, one of my uncles, who was a member of the Kenyan Football Association. I had an opportunity to go to Nairobi, the capital city, which was like 3-4 hours drive from where we lived. But I went with my uncle to watch a friendly pre-season match between an English club and a Kenyan 11. It was like in May, June, something like that. That club happened to be Everton Football Club. And we watched the match, which I think ended as a 2-2 draw. And then my uncle, being a member of the KFA, we went and met the players, the English team players, including World Cup winners, Alan Ball, Gordon West, the goalkeeper. Anyway, we went and met the players. And one of the things Alan Ball asked me, which normally if you meet a footballer, he'll ask you, what club do you support? And I said, I don't support any club. We watched the videos the week after. So we watched the English matches. That time was the first division. So I didn't follow any particular club. He said, well, now you've met Everton, you've met me and the team, you have to support Everton. So from a young age, I've been supporting Everton passionately. Ask my wife. Every time Everton play, I have to watch them if I can, either on my laptop, because I'm not allowed to watch on the big TV very often football is not high on the agenda at home. But so I have to go either watch it on my laptop or go to a community center and watch it on a big screen. But I watched Everton beat Chelsea 2-0 last week. So I watched that game. Anyway, we have ups and downs, of course, in football. But I have this love for football, and it helps me a lot. It balances my life from my work and other things. Watching football calms me down. Sean is smiling. It calms me down, and it helps me to relax and gives me new life. So football means a lot to me. Anyway, in the church, I joined the church in 1979, and I went through what we call the formula course. I did 3.5 years of fundraising, 3.5 years of witnessing. I did it. But I have to confess to you right now that I wasn't so passionate about doing those things. I did them because we all did it. We were encouraged to, and I went through it. I had a good time. I was a very good fundraiser. I was okay. I did it. But I have to say, I didn't have so much passion for fundraising and witnessing. However, I have to tell you, it's not a secret that in almost 40 years, actually August this year, I would be 40 years in the unification movement. So in these 40 years, of all the things I've been involved in, and I've been involved in quite a lot of things, the one I've been most passionate about is the very last thing I'm doing, which is wait. I've done all other things. At the seminary, I was very inspired by the course called the Survey of the World's Religions. Every term we learned in quite depth about each religion, each of the world's religions. And that, for me, that was the best course at the seminary. Of course, I studied Christian theology and others, but studying about the world's religions, for me, was something I got quite passionate about. And funnily enough, when I came back to England, Mr. Abe, who was our leader here, asked me to start the interfaith office based on my studies at the seminary. So I've loved doing interfaith work for many, many years, particularly the religious youth service, which I ran for 25 years. And I think two highlights were building two important peace gardens, one in multi-faith Southall, and one together with the Women's Federation, I believe. We did one in Belfast in 1999. We built a peace garden on the Antrim Road in war-torn, conflict-torn Belfast. So for me, that was a highlight of my interfaith work. But also, I got inspired to do youth work. And later on, Mr. Tim Reed, who was our national leader, we had a chat, and he said, you should become qualified in youth work. So he sent me to Brunel University to study youth and community work. So I did a 2-year course there while I was working in Lancaster Gate. And I got a PGC in youth and community work so that I could use it in the future for our church and other things. So wait has been one of the most passionate things. If Naomi Sutter was here, I think she would agree with me, because she and I are the two trustees who really keep wait running, thanks also to people like Cindy and all the other younger people who are enthusiastic, young team we have at the moment. But if it wasn't for the passion I have for wait, I wouldn't be running wait for 14 years. This is the 14th year. Next year will be 15. And, Auntie Naomi and I do this because we have passion for our young people, supporting our young people. A lot of young people have come through wait since 2005. And we feel that, we need to help them in their development, and especially our second generation, who have, we want to see them have a bright future and take over from us in the future. So that's one of the reasons we're passionate about keeping wait running. I say that years will come and years will go, and we'll continue until we can't anymore. That's a bit of a poet in me. Now, I'd like to go to this quote from our founder, Reverend Moon. Okay, I've written it down here, so I'll read it from here. It says, True Father once said, unless a piece of work expresses the feelings of everlasting love, then no matter how well it is written, the reader easily loses interest. The central theme of true art is always how to manifest the human passion, in red, of love. Poetry is no exception. Poems just use fewer words. Young people in particular are idealistic and most sensitive to all these feelings, being easily intoxicated by the emotions in art and literature. Science and other areas of learning or studying are very monotonous and dry in comparison. These are Father's words, taken in a sermon given called Good Day on the 3rd of July, 1977, in Belvedere, New York. Father talks about passion in the arts. So whether it's the arts, whether it's sport, or anything else for that matter, when we feel love and passion for what we're doing, for whatever it might be the case, we can easily invest ourselves in it. So passion is like the starting point. Yeah, we can commit ourselves much more than if we didn't have that passion and interest. Also, it keeps us going, no matter what hurdles we might face. So it doesn't mean that anything we do will be very successful. Yeah, there's no, they say there's no guarantees in life. But with passion, it definitely helps. It helps you to keep things going, as we've done with weight and so on. But it's a formula for continuity and development. If you ask any successful person, if you talk to, for example, Richard Branson, or you talk to David Beckham, these are sports people or business people or professionals. If you talk to any of them, some of the athletes that we have around who are gold medal winners, if you talk to them, they'll tell you first and foremost is you've got to have passion for what you're doing, because that is the starting point, the passion. Then other things, of course, you need a lot of hard work and commitment and so on. Those will come later. But the lift-off happens when you have passion. It's like the fuel. It's like the equivalent of fuel for an aeroplane to take off. It's that passion you need. So my message today is especially for young people, but it could apply to everybody. Find something you can be passionate about, whether it's in the arts, sports, some other subject. Find something you can really be passionate about, and then really commit yourself, an interest, really get into it. The expression says, get your teeth into it. Yeah, really invest your heart and soul into it. And I bet you anything, you'll be successful. And also it gives you an opportunity to grow and develop beautifully. So in our movement, I was thinking, just before I conclude, the reason I chose If Life Were Gracious Enough, I asked Kieran if you could include that song, is, my wife was telling me, 5 people died yesterday. There's all these killings, these knife killings going on. I don't know about you, one, okay, but there have been 28 or more just this year. And also all this talk about Brexit drives me crazy. I don't know about you. It's just going on and on and on. And I wish we don't have to leave. I've signed that petition, by the way. Hopefully we don't leave, because I think there's many, many benefits to stay. That's just my opinion, than to leave. But all these things that are happening, we're in a chaotic world at the moment, very chaotic world. And of course we're praying for a success in Brexit, and hopefully we're praying for this country and our leaders to do the right thing and so on. But, it just reminds me, there's a lack of love. That's why the song talks about if life were gracious enough. We need so much love, and love is connected to passion. So when we do things, whatever they might be, put our heart and soul in them and our deepest love, it can change. It can change communities. So I hope the leaders out there will listen, or God will listen to their prayers, and they will move their hearts. And we stop all this killing, and we make a good solution to the whole Brexit thing. That's what we need, because life has to go on. So I don't want to say any more than that. So I want to ask, especially our young people, those who are in Wait will have heard this from me already. So forgive me for repeating it. But be a hero. We have a song in Wait called Hero, and it talks about young people staying abstinent, not getting involved in free sex and so on. Be a hero. Go against the grain. But stand up for what is right. So I'm asking young people to be a hero for God and true parents, and by focusing the heart and soul in something that can help the providence. Okay? So thank you very much for it. Please join me in a prayer. Our heavenly parents and our true parents, thank you so much for allowing me to give this short talk this morning in front of my brothers and sisters here at 43 Lancaster Gate. We know from the death of our beloved Jesus Christ how passion has played such a big role in people's lives. Jesus loved the world, and you, Heavenly Parent, loved the world that you could give your only begotten Son to cleanse the sins of the many people in this world. We are grateful for Jesus, and we're grateful for all those who followed Jesus and all the leaders who have given up their lives for reformation in this world. And even today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going through a terrible time, even in this country, of knife crime. And senselessly, young people particularly, are being killed. And their whole life is being ruined and destroyed. So we pray that this can stop, that we can find a way to stop this and bring a good solution through teaching the principle and through blessing people in holy marriage, that people can really realize the value of human life and the value of future generations and the change of lineage, so that your lineage can really dominate this world and not Satan's lineage. So please be with us during this week, and I pray this message of mine can help particularly young people to stand up for what's right and to be bold in choosing one area of activity and really putting the heart and soul in it. And with passion, we know great success can come, and commitment. Thank you so much for this time. I want to offer this prayer and in my name and the names of all my brothers and sisters here. Marshall Souza, Central Blessed Family, RJ.